Hello, in this video we'll be talking about how to build a psychic training helmet. It won't look like what's in this picture, but it will be functional and we'll have some fun. So these are the tools that we'll be using and the parts that we'll be using. So we'll start out with the solderless breadboard, and so you'll lay that out and we will take our transistor. This is the 120 transistor, and we will push the pins into G18, G19, and G20 with the metal side towards the middle of the board. So you'll see here the metal goes towards the middle of the board, and those are the holes that it will be in. This will give you a good idea of how to get that in there. So next we will take our rectifier diode. This has a gray end to it, and we'll show you where that goes in. So we will push the gray side into the positive terminal between 22 and 23, and the non-gray side into J19. Make sure they're in there nice and tight. Next, we'll grab the LED bulb. It could be any color, but ours is white. And what we will do is we will push the shorter leg called the cathode into A22 and the longer leg called the anode into A21. And you'll see how those go in here. So make sure that you put those in the right spots in 21 and 22. And then next we will grab the resistor. So with the resistor, it doesn't matter which way you put it in, as long as you have one in B22 and F20. And make sure those are pushed in nice and solid. Again, it doesn't matter which one goes into which hole, which side, as long as they go into those holes. So next we will take the breadboard and we will peel off the backing, and we'll put it on this board that we pre-cut. It's a square board, so that way we can have something solid for it to be mounted to. So we'll take this and we'll put it up into the top corner, and so it's flush with the top. And so we'll just place that right on here. So there you will see that it's flush with the side and with the top. We'll make sure that it's on there nice and tight, and we'll push it down to make sure that the tape is on there nice and solid. So we'll push that down, make sure it's on there nice and solid. So next we will grab the Arduino, and the Arduino will go right next to this board. And so what we'll do is we'll first get some tape. Now we're going to have to do 2 double-sided padding tape so that it's high enough to fit on the back of the Arduino, because we need to make sure that it's high enough to go over the top of where some of the pins come out on the back side. So we'll make sure we have 2 cut to about the same size. And what we'll do is we'll put the first double-sided tape on the back here. Make sure that's on there nice and tight, and then we will peel it off. So we'll peel this off so that we can then put the other tape on there so that it's extra thick. So we'll grab this, we'll put it on top, and then we'll peel off the backing so it exposes the sticky side that we can then put onto the board. So here we'll peel this off, make sure it's on there nice and tight. Make sure it doesn't peel up off the other one. So we'll just make sure that it's nice and high, and you'll see those little pins. We just need to make sure it's above where those pins are so it really sticks onto the board. So we'll just flip this around and put this right next to the breadboard. And what you want to do is you don't want it like this where it goes up over the edge, because we want to pull it back so where the USB will plug in is flush with the top. So we'll make sure that's right flush with the top and right flush with the breadboard, so it's right next to it, because we're going to be plugging some wires into both boards. So now we'll grab the red jumper wire. What we'll do with the red jumper wire is we're going to place that into J18 and the negative side between 20 and 21, as seen in this photo. So what we'll do is place those where they belong. One will be in 18 and the other one will be in the negative, just like this, and make sure it's pushed down flush as you see here. So the next thing we'll do is we'll get the brown jumper wire, and with the brown jumper wire we're going to place it into 9 on the Arduino board and B21 on the breadboard. Make sure that on the Arduino board that you're putting it into the right one. Make sure it goes into 9 as shown here. Make sure that the other side goes where it belongs, right next to the LED. So next you'll get the yellow jumper wire. We're going to then take that and place it in the negative side between 27 and 28, and the other side in the ground, or G and D, on the Arduino board on the very bottom. As you'll see here, you'll have the one side on the negative, and then the other one going into the ground, or the G and D on the Arduino board. Next, we'll talk about the embroidery hoop. What we'll do is we'll remove all the metal off the hoop so that it doesn't interfere with what we're creating here. So because we can't have any metal in there, we want to make sure it's wood only on the inside. So we'll remove the metal here. We'll take the screws and everything off, and then you'll see that there's still metal on here. So what I've found is that if you get needle nose pliers, you can easily peel these off. What you want to do is just grab them with the needle nose pliers and just peel it back. And what that will do is if you start peeling it, you just really carefully peel it back and make sure that it pops those little grommets on there off, so that the metal comes out and you'll be left just with holes as you see here. So now that you have just the holes and no metal, now we can get some electrical tape and tape those two hoops together really tight. I've used 4. You'll see 3 showing in this picture. The other one's up above, and you'll see that there'll be a gap. Now this gap is important because what we're going to do is use that to put our wire in there. That's 16 gauge stranded copper wire. We're going to put that in there, and we'll want to make sure we have 35 to 40 inches of extra wire before you start wrapping, because we're going to use that extra wire later on. And so what we will do is we'll start wrapping the wire tight and without gaps in a clockwise direction, and then tape it so that way it's nice and solid in there. And what you want to do is also put some tape on the wire and on the actual hoop so you'll know which side the wires are going to. This will be important later on. So I would tape it every 1/4 of a circle. So here you'll see I've gone 1/4 of a circle and I taped it again. Then I've gone 1/2 of the circle and then I've taped it again. And then I've gone to 3/4 of the circle, taped it again, so that way it's staying nice and tight, and then finished it off. And the wires come together at the end. So now that they're together, now we'll cut 35 to 40 inches off the extra wire at the end, so you have that extra lead at the end there. Once you have that done, you want to use your wire cutter and stripper, and you'll strip about 1 inch off of both of your black wires, the left and the right, so that you have those exposed. Then what you're going to do is grab your DuPont jumper wire cable. It looks like this, and you'll cut it because we're going to splice this onto both of those other wires. So you'll cut those just like this, and then what you'll do is you'll also strip the extra wire off about 1 inch off of those as well, so they'll be exposed like this. And then what you'll do is you'll separate those out so that it forms a V, and you'll combine those two together like this. You'll wrap them together. See how there's 2 wires right next to each other? You'll wrap them together and then wrap them as one, so that way they stay nice and tight. But then you pull the one wire to the side, and then you have it to the side of the other wire, so then you can wrap it with tape, so that way you're splicing those wires together nice and tight. Next, you'll grab the hairnet and place it over the coil so that it'll be worn properly. So remember how we said that there's going to be a left and a right. So that's why we put the tape on there, so we knew which one's going to be left and which one's going to be right. This is important. So you'll have the left and the right. The left and the right need to go into the correct spots on the board, or else the pulse going through the coil will not go in the correct direction for the device and negate the effects, because it's got to go counterclockwise. So what we want to do is you put the right wire is pushed into I-19. Make sure the right is to I-19. Make sure that you got it in the correct spot. So that will be, if you're facing the back, the right. The left is pushed into the positive side between 23 and 24. You'll see how we push that into 23, 24. Then I'm going to show you how I program this. I plugged it into the computer and programmed the Arduino using the program and making sure I'm connected here, make sure I have the Arduino selected. I verify that it's done compiling, and then I go ahead and burn that onto the Arduino, and so that way it's going to put that program that we want to use that runs for 6 minutes, and then there's a 30-second pause, and then it goes into the full program. This is so that the first 6 minutes will actually program the brain to learn how to accept it. So here we're running that, and we're putting it onto the Arduino so that it can run this program. So now that that's done, you'll see this is the final layout of how it's supposed to be looking. And then what we'll do is we'll come over here and we'll plug it in. So what I do is I have a external USB charger that I'll just plug it into, and you'll see that the lights will automatically light up. the LED will light up there, and that means that the program is running. So it's on your head and it's running for the 6 minutes, and then give it a pause, and then it'll go into the main program. And if you push that button right there, if I push that, that resets it and it starts it from the beginning. You want to do this every time that you do this so that you have the 6 minutes and then the 30-second pause. Hold on, I have an update. Since making this video, I've updated the Arduino to an Arduino Mini that fits right on the breadboard and have condensed everything quite a bit. I will come out with a detailed video on how to make the condensed version of this.